The City Council for the City of Rollingwood will come to order in a special City Council meeting Tuesday, August 14th, 2026 at 5:01 p.m. We will begin with roll call.
Kevin Shell.
Phil McDuffie.
Sarah Hudson.
Gavin Maskell being quorum present. Thank you, Council. With that, we will move on to public comment. Anyone wishing to make comments on items not on the agenda?
I want to raise an objection.
There are three names, but I don't know if they're going to speak at this moment.
Okay.
Farrell?
I think Tom's
I thought I was signed up
on the agenda.
item.
All good. We'll come back to you. Anyone else wishing to testify?
Dan Howard?
Items not on the agenda? I think everyone's here for the agenda, so.
Yes.
All right. Hearing none, last call, hearing none, we'll move off of public comment and on to the regular agenda. Agenda item number 2, roundtable discussion with community stakeholders regarding the MOPAC South expansion project. Thank you, council, for making time out of your schedule, and thank you to our MOPAC South task force members here from the community who have dedicated a lot of their time to this issue as well. I especially wanted to thank Commissioner Ann Howard in the audience. Thank you, Commissioner, for taking time to be with one of your Travis County communities. We very much appreciate and acknowledge you being here. Also, a big thank you to Mayor James Vaughn and his city administrator, Trey Fletcher, who's also here. Mayor Vaughn has spent a lot of time on this issue, really digging into the specifics of it, and I appreciate him a great deal in his leadership on this. He first got engaged when we started doing some of the technical work group meetings with CTRMA, and he's really been a vital voice and digging into the specifics on this issue, and I can't thank him enough for all of his leadership. Next to him, Amy Patillo from our community here in Rollingwood, a very knowledgeable and important voice for our community on this topic for many, many years now, back from when she was on this council, but also in her roles now with Campo, and just a community volunteer who understands and takes the time to understand transportation. Always appreciate her. Also, a thank you to the Westlake Chamber of Commerce for their participation and interest in this issue. I think we have Trammell Cooper here this evening. Trammell, thank you for being here and taking an active interest in this issue and supporting all of your area communities and trying to dig into this issue related to an economic development and chamber perspective. Thank you, Council, for your time on this. As we discussed at our last regular meeting, the purpose of our agenda this evening is to really just have an open and a roundtable discussion, for lack of a better term. This is a complex issue, one that has taken many years, and we have a number of the city of Rollingwood has commented on this project for over a decade now, going back to Tom's years as mayor, and all of the subsequent mayors up to myself. So we have followed this issue and been at the table for many, many years. As I said at our last council meeting, I do commend and appreciate CTRMA's work in the past few years, especially in hearing a number of concerns and having an open door and open dialogue with us, and trying to address a number of the issues that we have brought up to them over the past decade or so. I do think that the project that is now published is significantly different, and we have a vast amount more data than we had in the early years of this process, and I very much appreciate their willingness, especially under James Bass, to work with us and provide us additional information, some of which information that you'll see and that we've printed out, but also some new information that we'll present to council and to the work group this evening that we just received this afternoon, in terms of some visual representations and side views of some of the area over the intersection at MOPAC that you may find interesting. From the early days of this project, the policy position of the city of Rollingwood we have tried to always not be adversarial to the end goal of what CTRMA is trying to accomplish. We have tried to not be a barrier while still having our voices heard and our concerns heard. And those concerns over the years have been varied, and they've included pedestrian issues. They have included east-west traffic issues, elevation issues, data issues. They've included a number of different issues, including the intersection at B Caves Road and Mopac. And I think we've made progress, and I think that there have been changes presented in this plan over the years related to those earlier comments and concerns that Rollingwood has expressed, and for that I appreciate, regardless of the end policy position that this council chooses to take on this project, I do want to acknowledge and appreciate CTRMA's for their work and their openness in the last year or so. Let the record show that Brooke Brown is now present on the dais. And with that, council, I will, what my thought is for the evening, and hopefully we'll keep this to an hour, hour and a half at max. What I'd like to do is take about a 15-minute recess. Thank you to our staff and to Alan and to Amy's suggestion. We have printed out huge maps. We have found it helpful in the past, and we've done this a couple of times in the past with other versions of the plan that CTRMA has presented. We found it more helpful to print these maps out in large formats so that you can really see them and have some time to experience what the actual ins and outs of the project are. So I want to take a recess. We can kind of reconvene around the tables, have some discussions here. Different ones of us have had a number of meetings with CTRMA to look at some of the different aspects of these maps. So I'd like to let you take a look at them, have some dialogue amongst yourselves, and then we'll reconvene in about 15 minutes, and then I'll recognize Mayor Vaughn to have a discussion with us as to sort of the thought process and the process that his council has been through in developing their most recent policy position on it. I will also say that we have, as I was talking to Mayor Farrell earlier, the large printouts in the middle are sort of the current published version of the CTRMA plan. Over to the left, you will see a proposed version of the intersection. You will not find that version of the intersection expressed in the printed out map that's on the large table in the middle, but it is sort of on the table for discussion and I think an important part of the equation for the cities of Rollingwood and Westlake Hills. We'll have more discussion about that, but do spend some time kind of at both tables looking at both the published version that CTRMA has that's currently open for public comment, and then also the specific intersection that is what I would classify as a conceptual proposed but not yet published version of the intersection. So spend some time with that, and we will reconvene at probably around 5:25, 5:30. You're at recess. Everyone, we'll give you about 3 more minutes to take a look at the maps, get any final questions that you may have or discussion points. 3-minute warning. 3-minute warning. City Council for the City of Burlingwood will come back to order in regular session at 5:36. Thank you everyone for taking a moment to review the maps and take a closer look. Again, we'll leave those out after the meeting is over. Feel free to stick around and take a look again if you're interested in it. And then we will have those available too. We will not leave them out quite like they are currently, but we will roll them up and have them available to the public. If you're laying in bed tonight and just can't remember something in particular, show up in the morning and we'll show them to you again. A couple of reminders. I just kind of want to review what's in today's packet for you, and then I'll also point out another resource for you on our website. But in the packet, and this is posted in our packet for this evening, so also if you get home and you don't want to come look at the big maps, this is all accessible to you online at home. But in the packet we have in PDF form kind of all, I think we put it all together, didn't we, Alan? It's all in one nice neat PDF. But in that PDF you have the Rollingwood letter to CTRMA from 2024. You have listed there the Westlake Hills letter to CTRMA from 2024. You have the second Westlake Hills letter to CTRMA 2024. You have these maps that you've reviewed this evening, the 2026 revised South Mopac plan. You have the MPS Bee Caves Road elevation exhibits. There's some discussion, and I think some of you saw we pulled those out, but we ask them for some side views of what the intersection elevated, they're still considered elevated lanes, but the elevation on those lanes. When you look at those in that packet on that PDF, the viewpoint is basically if you're sitting in the church parking lot looking, trying to look across Mopac at Trader Joe's, at Salt Traders. Yeah, thank you. At Salt Traders, that's the view that is represented there. Again, it's called the MPS B Cave Road Elevation Exhibits. You also have the Westlake Hills Mopac South Briefing document that we will go have a conversation here shortly with Mayor Vaughn about, as well as some Zilker Park noise barrier exhibits provided to us by CTRMA. You also have drawings of the Zilker noise barriers as well. And then you have, also for discussion here in a moment, will be the draft Westlake public comment letter, and we'll have a discussion about that. As a reminder, that's a good segue. Well, let me go back to, that is just what's in today's packet. If you want a deeper dive and have even more time on your hands, we do have a landing page on our Rolling Wood website titled Proposed Mopac South Expansion City Council Position, and you have all of the documentation and other supporting documents from the past decade. So we have a number of letters that we've put there for historical context dating all the way back to 2015, as well as some just basic information. We also try to put, when we come across other letters like from Westlake Hills, we try to put all of that information kind of in one spot. So if you want to do any research on the topic, that's all there located on our landing page on our city website. I think that is a good reminder, that just a quick reminder, whether you're for this project or against the project, the phase that we're in is the public comment phase for the environmental assessment. So some of the comments that we will, or if council takes a position for Rolling Wood, the comments that we will be presenting are on that environmental assessment phase that is currently open for public comment. For the remainder of this meeting, what I'd like to do, I'd like to have Mayor Vaughn step up. We'll have a dialogue. Again, this is somewhat of a roundtable discussion. We'll have kind of a dialogue with Westlake Hills. Happy to hear from the chamber if the chamber has anything to add. I don't know if anyone from representing Eanes ISD is here. I don't think so, but we did include them and invite them. There's also a past letter from Eanes ISD that is also on our landing page to get a sense of what their historical view has been on this project. And then we will end with public comment. Happy to hear any and all comments from the public. If there's anything in particular that you're interested in or that you want us to go back and ask questions or get clarification on, we're happy to do that. And if they are related to anything in the environmental assessment phase for public comment, we're also happy to think through that and potentially add it to our public comment. With that, let's start off and we'll go back. Mayor, if you would go to the podium, and I'd like to welcome and thank you again for being here. Just identify yourself.
I'm Mayor James Vaughn of Westlake Hills.
Thank you for being in our humble abode. I say that humbly, seeing your new abode. This is how the other half lives. So,
Well, we enjoyed hosting everyone, and we look forward to your renovations in the municipal complex and assume that you will put us to shame. So,
don't assume that.
yeah.
I know what yours cost.
I think the best way to talk about this, and I'm a more informal person, so interrupt me at any point, is...
And that fits with how I want this to, I want it to be that
Okay.
kind of conversation, so let's just have a conversation.
Cool. So, Amy let me know about the project a year and a half ago. And a year and a half ago, we mobilized. I'm not going to lie. The City Council of Westlake Hills was not very involved in our mobilization. It is easy to oppose something unanimously. And the design as of a year and a half ago was very detrimental to east-west commuters. So everything I will explain in terms of Costco and the domain, because that makes it simple. A year and a half ago, neither Loop 360 nor Bee Cave Road had the ability to access the northbound express lanes to get to the domain. That was not part of the project, and CTRMA had said that it was not part of the original engineering scope. They hadn't thought about east-west traffic. We pointed out that given that Loop 360 was undergoing a massive renovation and that Bee Cave had express lane access now, that was fairly unacceptable. The second thing that they mentioned is we had lost our access from the domain. So southbound express lane would no longer be able to exit on Bee Cave Road. We did, in their original plan, have southbound express lane access, so going to Costco, and we did have access coming from Costco. Part of the major problem with not having that northbound access for Bee Cave and 360 is it was going to divert everyone into the Whale Loops in Austin High. The most efficient way to get onto the northbound express lane from either 360 or Bee Cave was going to be the Whale Loops. Obviously, that's a big problem. You have everyone diverted around Austin High. So we made our comments known, and what has come out of it have been a number of substantial improvements. So now we have this divergent diamond intersection proposal that would give Bee Cave Road direct northbound access onto the express lane. It also, as a concept, regardless of that northbound express lane access, is modeled to reduce peak hour delays 48 to 58%. Eastbound Bee Cave delay is cut 33 to 50%. Westbound delay is cut 57 to 83%. And southbound frontage delay is reduced up to 75%. Southbound frontage delay, I was kind of confused by. It may be, if everyone's turning right, how many seconds is that? But percentage-wise, it may be 10 seconds to 4 seconds, but the percentages sound quite impressive. Point is that overall improvement is wonderful, I think, for the community. Then I was skeptical that they could actually include it in the project budget because it looked really expensive to me, and I'm not an engineer. So Kara Kockelman, who's a local resident, found an engineer willing to do a pro bono verification of CTRMA's numbers. They had told us in a meeting it was $5 to $10 million. He came in at $10.9 million. And for what it's worth, Claude AI said $10.9 million was reasonable. So we have two very quickly put together attempts at verification that it's actually $11 million. At which point, I feel more comfortable that it will actually happen. My original thought of $50 million was we're going to get the bait and switch. We have it in our letter that they have to fund it. So northbound express lane has access from 360. We have the express lane direct entrance. That takes pressure off the Whale Loops. We still lose the southbound express lane. So from the domain to us, you won't be able to get off the express lane for Bee Cave Road. So that remains the access problem. And all of this, quick pause on this, the advocacy has always been intended to try and improve the project as much as possible, assuming that it was going to happen in the grand course of time. If that assumption is wrong, maybe we should have gone a different direction. But so far, we've gotten some improvements. So that southbound express lane we lose, and that will primarily impact Rollingwood east of Montbello, or east of Edgegrove, is your Trader Joe's, right? Is Edgegrove? Okay. So CTR may provide us the traffic analysis on Bee Cave, and 10% of drivers currently using the express lane stay east of Trader Joe's. Those folks will now have the optimal route will be the Whale Loops again. But the Whale Loops won't, I don't think, be overpressured because you'll have the existing pressure from Terrytown and our users that go up into the hills, and you'll have the 10% of Rollingwood users who actually stay. For the majority of Westlake Hills and Westlake, you will have people use Tamarin, which is by the mall, that oversized road by the mall, go by the duplexes. Everybody tracking? Okay. And then you go to Walsh Charlton. So, or the people that are going all the way past us will just stay on Loop 360 and go all the way past us. My residents who live closer to Redbud would go express lane 360, take a right, and then go up. Then, of course, the question became, does this impact Eaton schools? The number of cars that this should be, presuming that neither you nor I are going to allow condo towers anytime in the near future, should be relatively limited. We are currently deploying no traffic AI signal optimization that should improve traffic flow at Walsh Charlton by between 10 and 30%. No traffic at other complex intersections has gotten up to 40 to 50% improvements throughout the nation. So we think with that traffic light improvement, Walsh Charlton will be okay. Let me see. For Rollingwood users, the important number is a 2.9 minute increase in travel time for the AM peak from that southbound express lane loss, and a 3.3 minute PM peak. Okay.
And again, to make your earlier point, I love your Domain and Costco examples because I think that's the easiest. To bottom line what the mayor just pointed out, essentially if you're going to the Domain, you're better off. If you're coming back from the Domain, you're not if your plan is to use the express lanes. That's the easiest.
And if you're going to and from Costco, you're better off under the current plan.
Yes, ma'am.
In thinking about that, what about the traffic that's coming to Zilker Park for ACL and other events? Is all of that traffic now going to be in the same lanes that people going north and south to come to Rollingwood and Westlake would be? In other words, is the congestion for events at Zilker Park going to be an issue? Or
Just depends on express lane versus general lane usage. The general lane experience doesn't change. So if folks are coming to Rollingwood from the general lanes for events, it doesn't change. One benefit from on Bee Cave Road, one benefit of the project, if they, I think in general, but especially with the Divergent Diamond intersection, is they're improving pedestrian infrastructure all along the west side along the church. So there will now be a legitimate sidewalk that runs past the church down and connects with that nice sidewalk along Barton Springs. So for the folks parking, they don't have to walk under the Divergent Diamond. You just take a left, and it should increase your community's access to Zilker.
And that was, if you go enough letters back, that was one of the early on points that we had made. Yeah.
So all in all, in terms of traffic, I think we come out winning. Westlake Hills comes out fine. We want to make sure we advocate with you because it was very effective in the last round and because we're neighbor communities. And noise was, I believe, a major concern of Rollingwood. And so you will see in our draft letter, we talk about making sure that the noise barriers are made of appropriate materials and that you all have as much coverage from noise barriers on the Rollingwood side as exists on the Zilker side, so you don't end up with reflectivity of noise. I won't go into that. That's in the draft letter. The other request that we have is...
And I do think, because it's in the environmental phase, I do think this is an appropriate phase to keep pressing that point. I will say, based on some of our meetings, there will be a limited amount of input that we as a community will have in that, because they do look to the property owners themselves to try to weigh in on that. But I do think it's worthy of us pressing it as an environmental concern to make sure that we have that at least addressed. I will say, be sure and look in the packet at this information. This sort of speaks to one of the remaining hanging issues that both Amy and I had discussed in earlier versions of plans that had been discussed and talked about. There seemed to be more elevation to the lanes as you approach the exit to Bee Cave Road. We had been told, Amy and I had specifically asked about the status of the elevation of those lanes, because that does pretty quickly get into the concern about noise. We had been verbally told that they were now basically at grade to what is there existing, but we had not seen that visually, which is why we asked for this information just a day or two ago, and they did provide that to us. So we do believe that the current version is much better than what we had originally thought that it would be.
And the last item that we had as a request in our draft letter is water quality and improving the stormwater treatment in our section of the roadway. The ideas that we had, I think a recent Travis County meeting, were stated to be somewhat unworkable. So I'm not sure if that provision survives or is adjusted based on whatever technology is recommended for water quality. The challenge with water quality is that many of the best mitigation techniques require much more right-of-way than exists over our section of the highway. So that is one of the things for you all to consider. Any more questions?
Any questions
That's
for
right.
Mayor Vaughn? If you have any mayoral questions, ask them of Mayor
They
Vaughn.
must be very mayoral. It's very important. So my hope is that we do the same thing that we did last time with the letter. And again, it's more complicated with conditional support than it is with opposition. It's easy to oppose unanimously. Is that we work with you all, Chamber and Eanes, to formulate a united position. And we take that, because last time at least we got great improvement through that
And so,
technique.
Mayor, where have you left it with your council, or in terms of, like, are you to a point with your council where you can go ahead and weigh in with the letter? Have they
Yep.
approved this letter, or like where are you?
So in our
your process?
last workshop, we were discussing our strategic plan and mobility. And as part of that, we talked a little bit about this and the approval for conditional support based on your input, whether we've hit the right conditions for our support, the community effort. So we're ready when y'all are ready, in Eanes and the Chamber.
And if council chose to not go that route, you would probably still proceed.
I would still proceed. If there's just no opinion at all, we'll proceed.
Yeah.
If there's an opinion one way or the other, then we'll adjust. But no opinion means we proceed.
Thank you again.
Yeah.
Thank you for your work. Thank you for digging into this issue and understanding it. And thank you for being our guest this evening.
Of course. Thank you for hosting. It's
Yeah.
always fun.
I'll put Amy on the spot. Not that you are required to say anything, but I think actually I'm your sidekick, but I'll give you an opportunity if you feel like we've not covered anything, or maybe there's things that are specific to Rollingwood that we need to make sure and give ample consideration to. Again, as you know, tonight is really just the work group for us to kind of get this information, continue to digest it. Tomorrow we're reposted for this as a reminder to my council. We are reposted to have a follow-up discussion on this if you so desire. So there will be no action this evening, but I wanted you to take all of the information in, and then we will discuss it again tomorrow night if you want to take action. Yes, ma'am.
Just a quick question. Is the draft letter in our package?
It is.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
It has one or two typos.
He peppered it so that he knows if we changed it on him, but yeah. Amy, if you will identify yourself.
Sure, Amy Patillo, 3 Rockaway Cove. So I appreciate the opportunity to say a few things. The primary thing that I think is important for the council to know from a lot of the different topics that have already started coming up is, but that this one hasn't come up, is in the past Rollingwood has commented on wanting additional study and evaluation of how the MOPAC South project would be impacted by the SH45 GAP project, which is the project that would connect I-35 to MOPAC, that's underway in Hays County. So one of the things that happened yesterday at the Campo meeting that I was at is that Commissioner Howard asked James Bass, the executive director from CTRMA, to make a presentation about the MOPAC South project. And a lot of the same information that is part of the information that's online as part of the virtual open house was presented to the regional body of Campo, which includes 22 people. There's representatives from a 6-county region that are there. And part of that is because at some point in time, the roadway will come up for Campo to vote whether to include in the TIP, which is our one of our planning documents that says which roadways are approved for funding, and are going to get built in our region. So I've actually never seen kind of a roadway get preemptively presented at Campo, and it was a very quick, high-level presentation, but really appreciated the presentation. The reason I'm mentioning that is I made some comments after the presentation where I asked the question of essentially if the study that we have right now of MOPAC South doesn't include the impacts that may come from SH45 GAP, and there's not a mechanism available to us to trigger that some other way, who is it that eventually does that analysis? What do we tell the public and our communities about when or how that is going to get done? And one of the things I pointed out is in my comments is that one of the requests that Rollingwood has had in the past, Travis County has had, others have had, is requesting that this project be studied under an elevated standard, which is called an EIS. So currently the project is being studied at the EA level, which is it's a lower level standard. It's not the lowest level, but it's a lower level. In the past, the federal regulations and case law around an EIS level study would have included more cumulative impacts being studied. And so the question I posed at that meeting was, and kind of let the board know is one of the reasons why there continues to be a call for an EIS level study is I think there's 3 different categories of topics that the community doesn't feel like have been addressed sufficiently under the current level. One of those being the way that this project would be impacted by SH45 GAP and the amount of traffic that we might potentially have on MOPAC in the future if that GAP project is built, and whether MOPAC effectively would become a bypass to I-35, and how do we know whether, who evaluates whether the things that are being done on MOPAC South, adding toll lanes, if then connected with SH45 GAP, are going to yield an amount of traffic that would exceed what's on I-35 and or change really the usage of the roadway. So I would say the way that the project connects MOPAC South and MOPAC North connect together, because there's still some things about the design that Rollingwood has commented about, I've commented about, that could be improved, that would allow traffic to flow better than it is right now, but that aren't being addressed, and that wouldn't introduce new bottlenecks into the general purpose lanes that are going to make more congestion. So I posed that question of, when do we get to that part of evaluating how this roadway is impacted or impacts other roadways and the overall cumulative effect? So I raised that issue, maybe in a few less words than I did just now, but with that group, there's not as much
I needed all your words on
opportunity.
This one.
I gave a little bit more filler here. So Director Bass came back up, and one of the comments he made that I just want to make sure I pass on here, and hopefully I correctly articulate it. it's recorded. So if I don't, someone can correct me with the public record. But he came back up and explained that given the Trump administration's executive orders, that the parts of the process that in the past under an EIS would have included cumulative impact assessments are no longer there. So if we're looking for the EIS to do that cumulative level of study, that's no longer part of what it is required to do. I feel like that's an important thing to say here because from the very beginning in Rollingwood, as our community has been learning about this project, many people in our community have been educated about the difference between the EA and the EIS. There has been a constant call for, let's do more study. Let's make sure we study with greater scrutiny, especially the portions that are over the Edwards Aquifer, which is most of the project. And so the reality that was what was presented at Campo to that body, I think is important for us to understand just in the perspective of what's happening outside of this space with this project and how our regional partners in the future may understand the project. So I don't necessarily have a solution because and that's why I posed it to that. I sit on the body that is a 6-county regional body that is supposed to plan for the entire region and look at the way that the roadways connect. There's not a function or a policy right now that's actually requiring an analysis of that, other than everybody submits their roadway projects every 5 years, and there's this RTP, Regional Transportation Plan, that gets put together where someone does a study of the predicted traffic impacts if all those roadways are built. But there's not really a level of analysis that's happening of what are the design features that need to be in place to make these roadways function more effectively, especially if they're connected together. And what's going to be the impact of building MOPAC South connected to MOPAC North and then SH45 Gap, because right now in that plan, SH45 Gap is still designated just as in a planning phase. So I don't have an answer for how that part of this process is going to be any different. I think it's something I can bring up at Campo, but I don't expect it to change this project. It might change projects in the future, but I doubt it, honestly. I think that there's a way that things get done, and so the parts of the EIS that might have given us the ability to see more cumulative impacts in the past, I don't know if that's going to happen. I will also say, I think that's a question that would be a great one to pose to if the city wanted to get more analysis of it, because this is not me providing legal guidance. I am an attorney, but it is not that. It is me just sharing what I heard in a meeting. And so if the city wants more analysis of what rights still exist for the city under an EIS, which is something that has been assessed in the past, that is something that I would say is an open question right now that's different than what it was in the past.
Would
So,
you
yeah.
think, would it be appropriate to at least maybe raise the issue in comments at this time? Even at least to put a marker down as we figure out what the other options would potentially. I'm sort of with you. I don't know. I don't think there's a good answer to that question, but
I don't have a good answer for it. Other people who really know this area right now and are looking at the intersection of the executive orders that are happening with the NEPA analysis process might have some answers for you. I think someone who's looking at that specific issue would be who might have more to provide as far as what the law, like what's actually happening. As far as putting it in the letter, I think that's up to the council to decide how you want to address that ongoing request for an EIS, if you want to continue to request it or
well, it doesn't
not.
sound to me like it would even be an EIS request. It would just be
Cumulative,
the underlying issue that you're
Mhm.
trying to get at.
right. And maybe this is the time, because I would say, like under the the issue of the noise mitigation analysis right now, technically in this phase of the EA process, like the draft EA process, there's very little that we were able to ask CTRMA to do as far as giving us information about noise analysis other than what's in the documents right now, which identify who gets to request them and what sizes of walls might be put in. But one of the things we learned is once this roadway goes from this draft EA that it is right now, if it moves into a final EA and gets a FONSI, and basically which is TxDOT saying you can start working on design and getting into the engineering of it, at that point in time, then federal law kicks in and has the requirements for how people then vote on what types of noise mitigation happen. Rollingwood currently doesn't have a vote because none of the properties that are on the boundary of the frontage road are qualifying under federal law to vote. So it would be the city of Austin having a vote on Zilker and some of the preschool that's there and some of the other properties. But effectively the corridor where Rollingwood is, the city of Austin has the vote. So I think it's important, even knowing that, I would say pushing now in letters and making statements about it for Rollingwood, I would recommend doing that. And it's why I started asking some of the questions about it in the last meeting that we had, that I was invited to see with CTRMA, because now is the time to actually start thinking about it. Because if this is the design that's going to get built, I would say ask now and assert now, regardless of whether the federal law gives the right to have done so.
I agree with that, and I think making sure that is part of our discussion as a community helps us in our discussions that probably ultimately would involve the city of Austin, because I think it's easier for us to go to the city of Austin and ask for their understanding on that if it has in fact been part of our dialogue up to that point.
I agree. Anyway, I would just say the EIS is an open question. The noise mitigation, I think, is an open question. The other things that are on these maps now, there are some improvements, and I really appreciate Westlake Hills, the Chamber, and Eanes joining last time and really getting up to speed on what is a very complicated thing to comment on, and having the ability to get some pretty major changes, especially to the part that's south of Rollingwood, to the design of the project. I think, and the thing that is being offered now that's new is the proposed intersection study, which I just keep on asking people to go look at it, because I don't necessarily have an opinion on it as much as I just hope that people will look at it and say what they think, because I think there's pros and cons. But if it doesn't happen and there's not that extra way to get, or the additional way added to get back onto the toll lane that's being taken away, which solves half of the issue.
Right.
You're not solving any of the issue.
That's
So.
And pause there, because I think that is an important point. And I've had mixed emotions about Divergent Diamond since the first time we saw it, and probably 2017 maybe was the first time it came up as an issue. And I think you and I have talked, I've said it in our council meetings. At the time that it was first presented to us, that was sort of a new concept out there. There weren't very many of those. I had not been on one at the time. I've now been on several. I do think it will be a little bit of a hurdle for our residents to kind of get used to that Divergent Diamond, but I think once that occurs, I think it's probably a better solution. And to your point that you just made, if they don't do the Divergent Diamond, then we also lose that dedicated access point for the northbound toll lane, which I do think then now we're going in reverse from the progress that we had made. So while I think the Divergent Diamond, it won't be the most popular thing that this council or myself have ever supported, I do think long term it's a net positive. And so I would encourage everyone to spend a little bit of time with that map. and you'll still have direct access. You would still have direct access into Salt Traders and that office building. For our Rollingwood residents, when you leave that office park, you'll either go up Wallingwood and come back around, or you can go down and come up Rollingwood Drive. You still have a couple of different options to get out of it. I'm not sure that the owners of that office park are going to be wild about it, but I think in terms of our ingress egress, it's probably a workable solution, in my opinion.
Will traffic that is on this, if you go to, if you're in the office building today and you wanna come to Rollingwood, you can come across the intersection, you don't have to do.
That's the one thing you can't do.
They would lose they would have to go
They'll have to go slightly. They'll have to go 300 or 400 yards up, get on the service road, and then enter.
They can't come across.
They can't come across. We can go in, but then we have to go one direction or the other to come back out.
And one thing I would point out about the proposed intersection, which is part of why I keep asking everyone to look at it, is this is CTRMA's design. And so Rollingwood has had a request over and over and over again to have a study of the intersection and to look at potential design changes. This is what was put out there based on their research, and so it should be looked at by the people who live around it and checked for whether it's going to work or not, and whether there are additional things that need to be changed.
And I do put it in the progress category with CTRMA because for years they sort of, again, previously, they kind of blew us off on that whole issue and said, this is not our problem. This is not our intersection. This is a TxDOT issue. We're happy to give you the phone number to call TxDOT and talk to them. There has been a marked difference in their approach to that intersection in the last 6 months, a year, which is why we have this proposal on the table today, and it seems like some level of commitment to funding it as well, which I do think is a marked difference from where we've been in the past.
Why is it? What is it about that intersection that they feel like they have to stop that traffic from the west side to the east side to the west side?
I think that because I don't know, I'm not
What
a
is
traffic
this?
engineer. I think in layman's terms, and you two jump in because we've all had this discussion, they're trying to take out as many of the signals as they can to keep traffic moving through a divergent diamond. And so the more you put back in to allow for additional traffic, the less it allows them to make that divergent diamond function.
Okay, well,
I think that's the lane. Is that close?
I think so. I mean, I thought it was so that they could include the toll lane ramp direct connect, because I don't think there's enough space under there.
to maintain the current
So when
ground
you're
For the-
levels, so
But
to speak.
I could be wrong.
No, I think that's
That
right.
that would be a good thing to
That
get.
actually is a good point because
Mhm.
they need that extra width to be able to peel off into the ramp going to the northbound
Yeah.
toll road, and so
I was just wondering, I was just thinking that the
Yeah.
road that's underneath
Yeah.
the divergent diamond would still be there, and apparently no.
yeah, let's take a look at it when we're done here.
Yeah, that's.
Tom agrees. It's not enough room issue.
I'll say that I made that assumption when I saw it, and so I didn't ask that question when we were meeting with them, and it would be a good follow-up question to get
Okay.
an answer to. In the same way that I think Gavin was able to ask for more than a verbal comment on the heights, and now we have the elevations. I'm sure that if there's questions that come out of this session, they could be
'Cause
sent.
I guess it'd be the same question If that,
That's right. So, I'm sorry. Ooh, that's loud.
if you were gonna go eastbound, if you were trying to go from Rolling Wood to Zilker Park.
Mhm. And the
you
problem
wouldn't
too
be
is
going
when
through
you're
the
coming,
Diamond.
yeah, the problem too is when you're coming back out to get them over to the right side, you don't, it would be difficult to make it because you have all of that traffic flowing to the left, flowing north.
Okay, I see, you would go across and take a hard left.
Right.
Well, and
If you're going
If you're-
towards Zilker Park.
you would actually, there's actually a lane, so you would just do you would be in the lane where you wouldn't have to go up and turn hard left. You would just be in one of the lanes that veers there to the
Oh,
left.
and stay on the axis.
Mhm.
You have an
Yeah.
option to stay on the axis.
Mhm.
Do you have any idea what the city of Austin is going to do with regard to the environmental issues in Zilker Park?
Okay,
Martin
oh,
Creek.
do you wanna ask, let's ask Gavin to.
I'm sorry, say again.
Sorry,
Yes.
I'm asking you to take the question the
Oh,
way
I'm
you want it
sorry.
to.
Okay.
No, it's okay.
Yes. And I do want all
I
of
can
our,
take questions.
and I
but-
will say, I do want all of
Yeah.
our task force members to have their time at the mic too, so
Yeah, yeah, I-
hold that
I
thought.
can
just
step
wanted
back.
to ask a question because she seems to be the most expert person here to answer it. I just say, do we have any idea of what the city of Austin is going to do, their position on Zilker Park and the environmental issues of Barton Creek?
Do we have any idea on the position of City of Austin and environmental and where they are on the policy as a whole? The short answer is no. I don't have that information,
I don't have it directly.
but we're happy to look into it. Okay, let me keep going. I'm not, okay, when you come up, perfect. All right, great. We have an answer coming.
Yeah, if there's nothing else, I'll
I'm
step
good.
back 'cause-
Thank you also for all your work. I appreciate that.
Thank y'all.
Thanks, Amy. Just want to thank the chamber. Come on up. If you want to say something, if you don't, feel free to say you have nothing to say.
I'm Trammell Cooper. I'm
again,
the
Trammell.
advocacy chair for the chamber, immediate past chair. And the only thing I want to say is I just appreciate you guys. And I know the chamber's goal is just to help support you. We are also not trying to stand in the way and know that progress is probably inevitable. So if we can help amplify our community's voice, that's what we'd like to do.
Trammell, thank you, and brag on you for a minute for taking this new role with the chamber of trying to liaise with the communities and stay abreast of what we're up to. So thank you for doing that.
Thank you.
All right, I don't think we have anyone from Eanes going once, going twice. All right, we'll follow up with them as well. And with that, I would continue sort of public comment for anyone wishing to give public comment on this agenda item. Do we have anyone signed up, Nikki?
Yes. Mayor Tom, you want to
Sure.
go first?
Tom, you have. I was going to say you have seniority, but I didn't want you to take that. wrong.
Listen, I recognize that. Thank
All
you.
right, good.
Tom Farrell, 3223 Park Hills Drive. Listen, first I want to thank all of y'all for working so hard on this. This has a major impact on the quality of life of all of us in the West Bank, and this is something that y'all been very quiet about, I might add, but this has been something that is going to be have a long-term impact on all of us, and we do thank y'all for all y'all's effort on this, and thank you, Mayor, and we thank the Chamber for jumping in and helping on this, and Eanes School District also, and especially Amy, where you at, Amy, for a long time working on this, as well as a lot of our residents on that. I just want to rehash a couple little things on this. When we started this, I guess 10, 12 years ago, the biggest issues that we had, that I had on that was, one, we were going to have some noise in the elevated roadway. Okay, so that we were able to get that out of the way, and I appreciate that. One of the other two biggest threats that I thought to our quality of life was, one, anything that happened to the intersection of BK's Road is going to put more traffic pressure on Rollingwood Drive, as well as some of the side streets in Westlake Hills, the residential streets where traffic would bleed around that bottleneck there. So I think keeping that moving is just incredibly important to do. I wasn't a fan of the diamond, and I'm not sure I still am, but it's just got so many lights there, and I look at that and I think, well, okay, I'm gonna have to figure this out, but you know, it's gonna take a learning process.
We could team up for a little while. We could
you
drive
know.
through it together for a while.
As long as the lights are kind of timed somewhat, then we'll have a little better chance at that. The other issue that I had was this gap of SH-45, because if that goes through, it is going to be a truck byway. There's no question in my mind about that. And that's something, it's not only a traffic, but it's going to be 18-wheel trucks up and down Mopac. And that's not going to be something that's going to be conducive to any of our quality of lives trying to get anywhere. And I'm not sure any of the studies that I've seen take that into account. The environmental studies, I think, is just incredibly important on that. We spend a lot of money on that. Rollingwood has developed its own WPAP plan that we try to use to help with that, and our water quality in this area. And we should try to do this, and some of our drainage issues that we've taken first steps on, thank you, Sarah, has been something that I think is important that we do this and keep that going to help with our water quality on that. Some of the other comments I'd make is I've always wanted to see us use the existing space we have on Mopac first before we add any additional lanes on that. And if we all know, when you go out South Mopac, you come to a bottleneck that's kind of an artificial bottleneck. And I think if that was opened up, it might solve a lot of the timing problems and would have an impact on some of the studies, traffic studies that we've seen. The other issue that I brought up before our council before was the timing of this project. We do have, it's important that we look at this from a holistic standpoint. We look at we look at 35 is going to be under construction the rest of my life. 360 is going to be under construction. And if we have Mopac under construction at the same time, we've effectively cut off all our routes that we can go anywhere. So it'd be nice to have at least a route that's still working on that. I think the progress we've made is impressive on at least solving some of the issues that our city has. The whole project itself has some issues, I think, with the EIS. I think that would have been something that would have been beneficial to the whole project if they had just started off with that, because I think that would have solved a lot of the issues that they're going to face going forward on that. But once again, I do thank everybody for putting in the time and effort on this, and you can see that we've made that this progress been made, and I do appreciate y'all's effort and productivity on that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mayor. Appreciate it. With that, I'll just go down the list that I now have in my possession. Bill Bunch. Welcome, Bill. Just identify yourself.
Thank you, Mayor Massengill. Bill Bunch. I'm Executive Director and Attorney for Save Our Springs Alliance. Worked alongside Mayor Farrell when we managed to do what folks didn't expect 10 years ago, and that is to force this very similar proposal onto the shelf because the community just wasn't buying the idea that it was a good choice for the community. And they weren't buying the idea that's still there of that there's no significant impacts from this proposed project, and therefore they don't need to do the full EIS. I first want to make an invitation to you and then make 3 requests and then sort of respond to some of what we've heard so far from former Mayor Farrell, Mayor Vaughn, and Ms. Patillo. First, I gave you a flyer, and this goes to everybody. There's a public a town hall set to discuss this specific project from a week from tomorrow. Earth Day, April 22nd, Wednesday, 6 to 8 p.m. in the cafeteria at Austin High School. There's going to be experts speaking, IISD represented, the high school itself, and talking about a lot of the issues that you're concerned about, especially the traffic issues, but also the environmental issues as well, which of course is a huge concern from us, given this incredibly unique ecosystem that we're in. So please do join us next Wednesday for this meeting. My first request is that since you are set or planning to make an official vote and take a position on this tomorrow, I would ask that you postpone that so that you can get that community input. Also, our experts, we have an incredible transportation expert who's finishing up his work. I just have a draft here. Environmental experts, that information will be available. Information from AISD, from Travis County, Austin AISD. So I would really think that, you know, if you need to do another special meeting before the May 3rd deadline, please consider that and take in some more input from the community before making a decision. Second request, please support Travis County Commissioner's Court and what I think will be, what has been the official City of Austin position, and I think that will be reaffirmed also next week, is that we need a full EIS, a meaningful environmental analysis, rather than this truncated environmental assessment, which says over and over, without any real support, that there'll be no significant impacts. And that's the legal test here. Ms. Patillo is incredibly knowledgeable. She stated it correctly. Under the Trump administration, we don't have this requirement of cumulative impacts analysis that would force the honest look at what this project means when you combine it with that GAP project that would connect South Mopac to I-35 and essentially overnight convert Mopac from a local commuter highway into an alternative, you know, basically Interstate 35 West for interregional interstate traffic, including truck traffic. But the communities working together can insist that that be done and can do that themselves with some honest traffic analysis, and we don't have that here yet. What a full EIS does get us under the statute and the rules that are still in place from Federal Highway Administration that govern this process is an alternatives analysis. The fiction that they're just continuing the same process they started in 2012, which is what they're doing now, means they can never look again at rejecting alternatives, which they did back in 2013, as not meeting the purpose and need. And that whole analysis absolutely needs to be updated for a number of reasons. There's so many things that have changed since then. We have alternatives that can address the real traffic issues that are there, but are not anywhere near what they told us they were going to be in that initial analysis in that 2012 to 2014 timeframe. And I'll go into a little bit of that traffic-wise. But the obvious reasonable thing to do is, as Mayor Farrell said, is fix that big bottleneck where they pinched Mopac down to 2 lanes, and you have this huge backup, you know, between Loop 360 and William Cannon, and then once you get past William Cannon, it's like wide open. Even with that bottleneck and that obvious easy fix that would address a huge amount of our problems, what they told us 10, 12 years ago, that is, if they did this, basically the same project, you would save 24 minutes if you did the whole 8.8 miles at peak rush hour. Now they're saying, and they didn't update the model, but they did update the traffic input to the model. They're still using this antiquated model that makes no logical sense whatsoever, and ran the numbers that we have now. And now they're saying if you do the toll lanes in the whole 8 miles, you only save at that very peak hour 12 to 14 minutes. And that they're saying in the free lanes, you would save like 6 minutes. The rest of the 24-hour period, there's really no benefit. And is that enough benefit to justify the harm to our air quality, noise, light pollution, and of course the threats to our parks in Barton Springs? I would submit that there's no. Other alternatives, an HOV lane, which is Travis County's been pushing all along, and then ramp metering, and then just the technology's evolving. I mean, nobody foresaw that we would have COVID and it would trigger so many more people telecommuting. And that's a huge reason why what they said was going to happen didn't happen. And we see leaps forward in technology right now. We now even have, with the threat of AI and robotics, that nobody's going to actually have to drive. So maybe you're stuck in your car, but you're doing something else. You know, you don't have to pay attention. So why does it matter if it takes you extra few minutes? Or if you're out of work, you're not commuting at all because AI and robots just took all our jobs away. And, I mean, you know, it is humorous, but that's the world we're in right now. The candle doesn't justify the light or the darkness, whatever that phrase is. And so taking some time makes sense here and looking at better options that are cheaper and that don't cause the real harm. Mayor Vaughn, I'm glad he said it. He said they started from the perspective that this is a done deal. And how can we just, tweak around the edges on this and get some improvements for the east-west traffic in this central city and access to the toll lanes. And I appreciate that perspective, but we thought it was a done deal 10 years ago. Back then, we had Gerald Doherty on the Travis County Commissioner's Court pushing for it. We had Republicans in Northwest Hays County pushing for it. Those folks aren't there. There's no real interest group out there demanding this project. It's basically sort of on autopilot because we created this toll road authority. Their staff and consultants need something to do. And I'm not kidding on that. I mean, it's an inertia that's not healthy to what is the best interests of this community. Also, we have right now the three CTRMA board members that the Commissioner's Court appointed, and the Commissioner's Court being very clear they want a full EIS, and they're looking at litigating if they don't get it. And their three appointees now so far have said they're aligned, basically, that they think something does need to be done, but they're not convinced that adding two toll lanes each way plus additional free lanes, we're talking about literally doubling the size of Mopac, 6 to 8 new lanes between Enfield Road to Slaughter. That's another thing the EA is not being honest about. You have to read it, up and down, and they never actually explain to you what the project really is. They talk about adding 2 lanes. It's not. It's 6 to 8, the whole distance. But so the politics here are actually much different and deeply more skeptical of this project. Since the whole thing is in Travis County, it would be incredibly difficult if Travis County commissioners and their appointees stay firm that they're going to demand an EIS, that the commissioners from Williamson County that have nothing to do with, the whole project's in Travis County are going to force it down their throat with the extra vote from the governor's appointee to the chair. So please think about it in these terms that this is not a done deal. It really isn't. And your voice can make a difference. Part of what the law requires, and this case law is still there, looking at the statute of a full EIS, is uncertainty, bad information, and community opposition. And right now, from everything we're hearing, and we have a public information request in on all the comments that have been filed, and it's quite a few already, that overwhelmingly those comments are against the project. Let's see, a couple of more points. Oh, so also, you heard from Mr. Vaughn sort of quoting these time savings percentage or minutes or what have you. First, that's assuming their modeling is honest and correct, and it's not. Norm Marshall, who's our expert, when he gets these finalized things, he lays out very clearly how the model is just dead wrong. It's greatly overestimating congestion at the peak hour going forward, just like they did 10 years ago. It's still baked into the model. The more specific, these turning actions and whatnot, that's even more sketchy and unclear that has any real accuracy to what might be expected. The population projections in Northwest Hays County in particular that are driving a lot of the traffic on this are just off the charts absurd. There's no way that makes any kind of sense whatsoever for the traffic generation. And then most critically here, and I hope you'll think about it and think about it on behalf of your constituents. The document says over and over, no significant impact, and they include, especially on the construction phase. It literally acts like this project's just going to fall out of the sky and be there. It's going to be at least 5 years of construction, probably 8 years of nightmarish traffic delays. Delays that will impact you every day for that period. The traffic nightmare at Austin High, when this bridge that's on the invitation I gave you, the Roberta Crenshaw Hike and Bike Trail Bridge that so many of us know and love, that's going to be shut down. I mean, they're going to be constructing right on top of it with a giant barge in the lake. And right now, a huge portion of Austin High students, including my daughter, they're dropped off in Zilker Park and they walk across the bridge to and from. If that's gone, the traffic at Austin High is just, it boggles the mind how bad it would be for that period of time. And then not to mention, the recreational harm to the lake and to the trail users, which, this is a wildly popular and much beloved trail that we would lose for an extended period of time. How do you call that sort of harm insignificant? The noise. I mean, they're looking at sound walls all over the place. Well, you don't even look at sound walls unless there's a huge noise impact. So we need some integrity in this process. And your voice really does matter. And so I think I've covered my main points. I wish I had our transportation analysis ready where I could give it to you. It's not quite there. But please join with Travis County. And then on the question about Austin, Paige Ellis, Councilmember Paige Ellis, is sponsoring a resolution. It's not posted yet, but she's adding it as an addendum in the next couple of days. will be on the city council, Austin City Council's agenda next week, Thursday, the 23rd, the day after our town hall meeting, where it would call for a full EIS, reaffirming the position that they earlier took. It may also urge them to look specifically at just doing one toll lane each way, south, like we have north. So you don't have some of these impossible, difficulties of this mismatch of, bottlenecking down onto North Mopac, and causing real problem with, travel times to the north, which again, they never even look at. They put the blinders on and they say, oh, we're going to run our little model that's deeply flawed and we're going to get these few minutes of savings at peak hour. But we're not even going to look at the fact that we're trying to force a whole bunch more traffic from the south side onto the much narrower bottleneck of Mopac to the north. And once you do that, and then especially you add the GAP project, and then there's going to be instant demands to just like bulldoze, more lanes north. So thank you for your patience. I tried to keep it short but thorough, and thank you all for your service to community.
No problem. Thank you for being here.
Any questions?
Okay, with that, we will. You can add it to your letter. I wanted to also make sure and acknowledge. Oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry.
Oh, yes, we're not done. We're not done at all. I wanted to acknowledge Gay Irwin and John Hinton for being on our Mopac South Task Force. And I won't put them on the spot yet, but I'm going to give you an opportunity to say a few words if you want, and if you don't, totally fine. But I wanted to, thank you while everybody's still here. Thank you for your work that you've done on the task force and for keeping up with this on behalf of the community. Thank you both for being here tonight, and I'll give you an opportunity to say a few words if you're like. But he already spoke, and I already thanked him, so I wanted to make sure. But yes, we always appreciate Tom anyway. So with that, I'll go back to public comment. Feel free to come on up.
Hi, my name's Elizabeth Bray. I live at 103 Vale Street. I have a few different questions. They're all short.
Okay, great.
What is the estimation of when this project would actually start or be approved? Does anyone know?
No one.
That seems like a good place to start.
The documents say 2027.
Okay.
And they said it a lot earlier than that 10 years ago. So,
So the start date is unclear. Is it definitive that this project will happen? It has been green-lighted, or is this still in the process?
Still in the process.
Okay. Because it seems odd to me. At first blush, I looked at it and said, why is it $855 million to save us 5 to 8 minutes of commute time? That seems extraordinary. But now with the advent of there not being anything, it's always been something that's been deeply disappointing that we don't have an overall city plan on our roadways where the things are connected and we give them out piecemeal. But with this particular one and not doing a study of what the impact would be on the traffic and the commute times should 35 be connected, then you've basically erased the justification of the financial plan of it costs this to save that. So I think that would be a rather large challenge point to say you're being evaluated on your cost-benefit analysis, but there's no cost-benefit analysis that's accurately possible. And then the one other comment, and then I have a question. Brooke, on your question about festival traffic, I think what the larger issue that wasn't addressed was not what this plan would do to it, but it is more what the city of Austin will choose to do in the festival plans of which entrance and exit points they open or close. That will have the bigger impact as it does now.
Say that again, I'm sorry.
It's what their traffic plans are for which entrances and exits they choose to have open or closed to push the festival traffic. That will have a much bigger, whether a toll lane or a not a toll lane exit, that City of Austin plan, which we often have very little control over, unless perhaps that was also one of those proactive, hey, we want to talk about this before this happens, dialogues. I think that will have the much larger impact. And then my question for tonight is, will the city, in the past, there's been a great summary on the webpage, on the website, or even a dedicated webpage at times that said, this is what's happening, and this is our position, and these are the public meetings available, this is how you engage. There have been sample letters in the past of things that you could consider. At the moment, I've been asking about that. I've actually sent an email to the city of Rollingwood to say, are we gonna have that for residents? Because the only way you're gonna get residents to engage is if you make it easy for them. And I don't know that there aren't more residents here, because my second question is, how are you letting people know about these kind of meetings and about the information? Because the only way I found out was a random comment on a WhatsApp chat yesterday. So I would love to understand how this is a pretty big issue for our city, how we're gonna engage residents and how we're gonna support their engagement that we'd like them to do.
Great.
Thank you.
And once we know the answer to that question from a policy perspective, I'll have an answer for you on how to do that.
Appreciate it.
Yes, ma'am.
This will show my ignorance, but where are the funds for this project coming from, and have they already been approved?
They have not been approved. Amy, you want to jump in?
Okay, so the funding for the study of the project was initially allocated from the legislature under Rider 42.
I
And
mean, the 855
Right.
million.
I'm just starting from there.
Okay.
So it was about 16 million given to CTRMA to study the project. The funds to build the project have not been allocated yet.
Where
And
would they come from?
so bond funding is potentially an option. CTRMA self-funding in some way is an option. The state deciding to fund it is an option. There's a bunch of different options on the table at the point.
So
at this point.
would the funding for bonds be taxpayer and property tax assessment? How do the bonds get paid? If
Out of the
tolls.
CTRMA
The tolls.
Or the tolls.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Toll funded bonds.
Right. So on MOPAC North, CTRMA actually funded that themselves, and out of the region's ability to take out debt capacity, rather than doing bonds
But who pays the debt? I mean, where do
from
you
the
get
toll.
funds?
So the tolls
The
fees,
toll.
have,
Oh, still
yeah,
tolls.
and then there has been a point at which some of that money then has been transferring back into the regional pot that Campo has. But I think it's an open question right now how it will actually get funded. But I bring up a couple of those extra things just to note who has been funding it up to this point. And the $16.5 million for the initial planning, I think was spent a while back. So it's been CTRMA funding out of their pot.
And is CTRMA a property tax funded entity?
No.
It's tolls also funded with tolls?
Tolls, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
Okay, with anyone else from the community wishing to testify on the agenda item? And then I'll make one last call to John or Gay. Happy to have you weigh in. I got the shake. You good? All right, good. Mayor, you want to close us out? Do you want to speak again?
I'd like to talk about my favorite models.
Come on up, but keep it.
It'll be
But as
less than
a colleague, I'll keep you to a 2-minute time. Okay, great.
It was commented that I had a great deal of faith in traffic modeling, but that is not true. The only thing that I have faith in is the express lane access will be faster than general lane access, no matter what. That's it. So I don't think that the numbers that are provided in the packet have some sort of sage wisdom going forward and should be thought of as true. Just, do you have the express lane access or do you not? That's it. Okay.
Thank you. And I'll actually add to your hesitation on models too. I will say CTRMA did do some additional analysis at the request of City of Austin related to downtown traffic to and from. It was not related to the actual project itself, but I'll say the consulting firm that they use to do that downtown modeling, they need to get themselves a subscription to Waze because it's wrong. And I happen to drive those downtowns. They happen to stumble into my wheelhouse.
Getting to and from.
Getting to
downtown.
and from Westlake, and they are not accurate. And I'll say that on the record for when CTRMA probably listens to this. I would suggest you get a different consultant for that set of analysis because they are about half of what it actually is in real life. And and ride along with me any day of the week, and I'll prove it to you. Okay, council. Any other deep thoughts to close us out for the evening? Thank you all again for being here. A lot of information, a lot of things to digest, and we will continue this dialogue. But happy to have any of you make closing comments before I entertain a motion to adjourn. You're a council after my own heart. You have a motion to adjourn by Ms. Hudson. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say no. Being 4 ayes, no nays, motion carries, and you are adjourned. Thank you, council.